Good afternoon, everybody. Mingalaba. President Juichi Yamagiwa, Your Excellency Aung San Suu Kyi-san, honored guests, and especially all of the students who have gathered here today from Kyoto University and from other places. We'd like to give you a very warm thanks for having come here today. My name is Mario Lopez. I'm an associate professor at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies. Today I will be the MC for the discussion between Kyoto University students and our honorable guest today, Aung San Suu Kyi-san. Today we are honored to have you here, and actually many students wanted to be present. However, this venue has limited space, so we could only invite a fraction of the students who actually wanted to come. However, from all of the students who have come here today, we have managed to choose 8 very bright young students from Kyoto University to put forward some questions to you and to know your opinions on these questions. So what I would like to do now is I would like to call up the 8 students who are present here today who will be in discussion. So the 8 students at the back, could I ask you to come forward to the podium, please? Okay, so from now on, we will have questions from students who have come here today. So without further ado, what I would like to do is first of all invite Kazuma Komatsubara to ask his question.
Mingalaba, my name is Kazuma Komatsubara. I major in economics in Kyoto University, and I also belong to the American Football Club. It is a great honor to be here today and meet you. Today, I want to ask you about motivation. The American Football Club is aiming to win the national championship, but many people, even the students of Kyoto University, believe that it is not possible. In the same way, I think the world thought that it was very difficult for you to fight for democracy when you were placed under house arrest for a total of 15 years. During those years, what kept you going and what motivated you when you were trying to accomplish something that many other people believed it was difficult to do? Thank you.
Well, you use the word impossible. People say that it would be impossible for you to win the championship. That reminds me of a motto that was on the wall, I believe, of an RAF station during the Second World War, where they said that we do the impossible every day, but miracles take a little longer. So you have to keep that in mind. The impossible is something that you should be able to achieve every day. Every day you should be able to achieve something different, something new, something that you have not achieved before. When we were struggling for democracy, there were times when it was very difficult. Our whole party was reduced to no more than a very small room in Rangoon, which passed as a headquarters. But we never thought that we would fail because we believed in what we were doing. And I think this is the greatest motivation. You have to believe in what you are doing, and you have to have the faith to keep going. It's not enough hoping. I always say that hope is no use without endeavor. If you want something, you've got to work for it. But you've got to believe in it. If you don't believe in it, you won't really work hard for it. If the members of the team don't believe that they will ever win the championship, you will not win it, because they won't work hard enough to win it. They won't have the faith that will motivate them. They won't have this intrinsic belief that they are capable of doing it. We always believed that we would win through because we believed that our cause was just. I won't use the word right, because right can be interpreted in many ways. But we believed that it was just because what we were trying to achieve was for our whole society, for our whole country, not for our party. So because of our faith in what we were doing, we were able to win through. Though, mind you, we're not at the end of the road yet. And that takes a long time.
Thank you.
I just want to make a remark. You said it was a dialogue, but why is it that I'm going to be asked all the questions? That's not a dialogue. That's a question and answer session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we would now like to turn to our second student here. This will be Soyako Harima. Thank you.
Hello, Suu Kyi-san. My name is Soyako Harima, a fourth-year student in the Faculty of Law. I really enjoyed the past 4 years as a Kyoto University student, including studying abroad program in Uppsala University in Sweden and Oxford University. And I'm going to graduate the Kyoto University very soon, and I have to think about my future, my very first career. And so recently, I'm always asking myself questions about my life. What do I want to achieve in my life, or what kind of person do I want to be? Meanwhile, you have dedicated yourself into achieving democracy and peace in your country. And now people respect you as a role model. And so here I would like to ask these questions. Who do you respect as your role model? And what kind of philosophy or idea have you kept in your mind during your whole life? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I've always found the expression role model rather difficult to cope with. I'm not exactly sure what it means. Does it mean that somebody whom you wish to emulate? Because I don't think there's any one particular person that I wish to emulate, if that is what it means, role model means. I have great admiration and respect for my father, not just as my father, but as a leader of our country. But there are other people whom I respect as well. And we were talking about science earlier. For example, I have a great respect for Marie Curie. And I often think that if I'd read her biography earlier in life, I might well have gone in for science. But I read it too late to be able to change my subject. But I don't think you should look to one particular person as a role model, because nobody is perfect. We all have our weaknesses and our strengths. So what you have to do is to decide for yourself how best you can contribute to the well-being of the society in which you live. That doesn't have to be in a large way. I often think that people who discharge their duties and their responsibilities fully, whatever these may be, are far more effective than those who may be in very important positions, but who abuse their power and their influence in a way that is negative for society as a whole. When I was trying to make our people understand what democracy was all about, because we lost democracy back in 1962. That's more than 50 years ago, when you were not even thought of. That's a long time ago. And many of our people had no understanding what democracy was. And when we tried to make them understand and to become part of the movement, they would ask questions as like, but I'm nothing. I'm not educated. I'm just a street hawker. How can I help? Then I would say, if you are a street hawker and your work is simply to sell whatever it is you're able to hawk around from one place to another, and if you do it honestly, in the sense that you ask for the right price, and whatever you are selling is what what you say it is, then you're discharging your responsibilities. And you can also be pleasant about it. You can try to make your surroundings a little better because of you. And I think this is how you have to look at it. Everybody can't be, I have to use this word because this is something that worries me. Everybody cannot be a celebrity. I think this is the age of celebrities, and people think that you have to be a celebrity in order to be someone. I don't think this is the case. I've always said that the most effective people in our movement were our unknown soldiers, those who worked for the movement without ever being recognized in any way, and they were happy to do that. So I think it's what you can contribute, what you think you can contribute, not what you think you can get back. That will give you the greatest satisfaction. So just find that out for yourself, and don't look for role models. They get you very confused.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We would now like to turn to our next student, Yuki Masuo.
Hello, my name is Yuki Masuo. I'm thrilled and honored to be here today to have the privilege to ask you a question. I am a fifth-year student at the Faculty of Medicine, Kyoto University. I am currently receiving training at hospital every day. During bedside training, I experienced various circumstances whereby the immediate action of doctors was needed. You are now the political leader of the state of Myanmar. I believe you continuously face many situations whereby you have to make difficult and important decisions, ones which greatly influence citizens in your country. Generally speaking, make a decision, you have to let go of all the other possibilities. In order to make the right decision, you need to consider pros and cons carefully. So I have two questions for you today. The first question is, how do you make decisions as a state leader? The second question is, what was the most difficult decision you have made in your entire life?
Well, you talk about making the right decision. Now, not just making decisions, but making the right decision. I've often said that in politics, there isn't just one right answer. There are several answers that may well be right, but you have to choose one. And I think it's the same with you. When you're making a difficult decision, it means that you're not quite sure which is the right one. If you were perfectly sure, then it would be no problem. If there's a very clear case of either this or that, then that's no problem. You choose whatever is right. But sometimes there are several alternatives. And then I think the problem starts. You begin to wonder which one to choose. But the point is that you have to make a choice. You have to bear the responsibility for your choice. That is the first thing you have to recognize. Whatever decision you make, you must bear the responsibility. But once you've chosen it, and you are, I think, envisaging a situation where it isn't, the right decision is not obvious, then once you've chosen one decision which you hope is right, then you've got to make it the right one. You've got to try your best to make it work. And that's how it is with politics. We've had to make difficult decisions. Let me give you a couple of very concrete examples. In 2010, the first general elections in so many years, in 26 years, I think, were held in 2010. And we had to make a decision as to whether or not we were going to contest the elections. And in order to contest the elections under the new constitution, we had to re-register our party. And in order to re-register our party, we would be obliged to expel all our members who were either in prison or who had been tried. Now, I was included among those. So we had to make this very, very, very important decision. Do we contest the elections and expel all our most dedicated and committed members, because these were the ones who were in jail? Or do we stay out of the elections and risk becoming an illegal organization? We decided that we would not contest the elections. Now, that was a difficult decision because it could have destroyed our party. But we decided that if we were to expel our most committed members, if we were to turn our backs on them for the sake of our own safety as a party, our party would not be in a position to work for the people in the long run, but of course we would have lost credibility. But of course, it was a dangerous decision as well. We contested the law that required us to re-register in court, saying that when we previously registered as a political party, this was not part of the rules. So that was one of the decisions we took, and we lived with it for 2 years. Then we were given an opportunity to take part in the by-elections. And again, the then government invited us to re-register as a party and take part in the by-elections. And we thought about this and we said, if that regulation about expelling our members were changed, then we would re-register. And they did change it. So we decided to re-register. Then we were criticized by people who said, why were we going in for the elections this time? Why had we decided to re-register? But again, we decided that since this is the path we've chosen, we would make it work. And we made it work by winning the by-elections, by working hard to win the by-elections. So you can't always be sure that you're making the right decision. But once you've made the decision, just do everything possible to make it the right one. And as to which was the most difficult decision I've taken in my life, I can't say there's one particular one, but the ones I've mentioned have been difficult. The one I took in 2010 and then again in 2012. I'm sure there will be many more difficult ones.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite Daw Aung to put forward a question.
Nice to meet you. I'm so glad to see you today. My name is Daw Aung. I'm a student of Kyoto University Graduate School of Environmental Studies. My major is civil engineering, especially I research about geotechnology. However, I would not like to ask you about soil or clay. I'm interested in what Myanmar will become and how Myanmar will change. When I was told that I would be able to see you today and ask you a question, I researched about you online and I got to know that you have lived India, Britain, America, and also visited so many countries up to now. So I have a question about that. Among these countries, are there any countries that can be a model of the future of Myanmar about democracy, economy, or environmental policy? Anything is okay. Could you please teach me your vision of the future of the Myanmar? Thank you.
Well, my vision of the future of my country is an amalgam of all that is best in the countries you've mentioned. No country has everything that is best in the world. Some aspects of its society, some aspects of its government, some aspects of its economy are among the best, but not all. So you have to choose. I've found that wherever I've lived, once I get to know the place and the people, I start getting very fond of them because I begin to understand them. So in the end, what you need to do is to understand the situation of your own country if you want the best possible for it. Our people are quite different from the Japanese. I keep telling them that I keep telling my people, you're not as disciplined as the Japanese. You've got to learn. You've got to work harder, because we have been fortunate to live in a country where life was very easy for many, many decades, but it is not so now. And now that life is getting more difficult, our people are learning to work harder, which is a good thing. So we want to learn from different countries, and we want to take the best from different countries. But one thing I do want to say is that we want to preserve the environmental beauty of our country, because it will be very difficult to reverse the situation once it has been ruined. And as an environmentalist, I'm sure you understand this. And I would like to invite you to come to Burma and look at it and see what can be done to make sure that we conserve its beauty in the best way possible, while making sure that our people are able to advance economically. Because let's not be romantic. Starving people cannot feed on beauty. They have to be able to have the necessary material ingredients that will make life comfortable and happy, as well as the aesthetic pleasure of their surroundings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your question. Next, we will have a question from Ayaka Nomura.
Mingalava, and I'm very honored to be here and to see you, Suu Kyi-san. My name is Ayaka Nomura. I'm a graduate student at the Graduate School of Advanced Integrated Studies in Human Survivability called GSICE. Human Survivability. I know it's long, sorry about that. Actually, through our school program, I stayed in Myanmar in this last August. So I visited your country's village, and they welcomed us very warmly, and they especially loved to feed us a lot. So we enjoyed it. During our stay, we have taken a lecture on the Myanmar's education system and its challenges. Educational disparity between cities and villages is one of the serious problems in Myanmar, I reckon. So could you please share your thoughts on this topic? And also what Japan, especially as Kyoto University, can support Myanmar in this regard?
Thank you very much. Well, education is a big issue in my country because progress is based on a good education system. And once upon a time, that is to say, going back to the years when we first became an independent nation, our country was considered to have the best education system in the East. But of course, those days are long past and we cannot sit on our laurels. We have to rebuild our education system to make us fit to face the world in which we live. Now, you talked about the difference between the cities and the villages. That is very true, of course. And traditionally, there was very little difference between cities and villages. Even now, in my country, you will not be able to tell from the way people speak what strata of society they come from. That is the intrinsic equality that has existed between our peoples since historic times. But now it's beginning to change. The privileged go to better schools. That is particularly within the last decade or so when private schools were once again allowed in our country. And then the gap between the well-educated elite, which is very, very small, and our people in the villages is getting broader and broader. I do not think that the standard of education between towns and villages on the whole is that far apart. But some parts of the country, particularly in the border areas, there the education system has to struggle, particularly in our ethnic areas where their mother tongue is not Burmese. And our education system is conducted in Burmese, which is the official language of our country. We've had to struggle with this because there were those who said that they should be allowed to teach in their mother tongue. But that brings many difficulties because we have officially 135 different ethnic groups. And it would be very difficult for us to conduct an education system where different pockets of peoples were allowed to teach in different languages. And in any case, some of those languages cannot be written down. Then there is no written language in some ethnic groups. They're just a spoken language. So we couldn't possibly use it for education. So this difference in language makes for a big gap in the achievement of the children in different areas. And we'll have to try to remedy it in various ways. First of all, we are now making it part of our law that the mother tongue can be used as a classroom language so that we can have assistant teachers translating into the mother tongue. But the teaching will have to be done in the main language, which is Myanmar or Burmese, because otherwise we will not be able to have an integrated education system. What our ethnic peoples want is a genuine federal system. And to achieve such a system, we have to make sure that there's a right balance between integration and between diversity. We have to be integrated as a nation, but we have to have diversity as different ethnic groups in order to keep the spirit of federalism alive. So this is a challenge that seeps into our education system. In which village were you staying? Was it in the mostly Myanmar part, or was it in one of the ethnic?
We stayed in Yangon and also Naypyidaw. The villages is the nearest to the Naypyidaw.
Ah, well. I'm not sure that is the sort of village I had in mind. And Naypyidaw, by the way, is not typical of our country, as I'm sure you noticed. It's not the kind, you can find only one Naypyidaw in Burma. But the villages where you were, yes, they would be different from the cities, but I don't think the gap between the villages in Naypyidaw and some of the some of the schools, I don't say all, in Yangon, for example, would be that large.
Okay. Jesu Timbale.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you very much. We will now turn over to Bo-san, who will provide a question.
မင်္ဂလာပါမေတွေ့ရတာရန်ဝမ်းသာပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်နာမည်ဘူဆန်းပါခင်ဗျလူမျိုးပေါင်းစုံပါနေလို့အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုပဲပြောပြရစီ Hello man, very nice to meet you. My name is Busan, coming from Myanmar. Now I'm a PhD student in the Graduate School of Agriculture in Kyoto University. I'm really proud to be here in such an excellent university that you joined as a visiting researcher in 1985 when I was born. In Myanmar, I'm working at the Forest Department under the Ministry of Natural Resource and Environmental Conservation. My question is about current peacemaking process. Our country, Myanmar, is on the march of democracy, and so there's a long way to go. On our road to democracy, one important issue is national reconciliation, especially with ethnic groups. Since 60 years ago, Myanmar governments, previous governments, have struggled to create a unity of all the ethnic groups, but unfortunately, that goal has not been achieved yet. We know that you are now trying to solve this very difficult problem through a series of meetings such as the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panlong. In this peacemaking process, you have to negotiate with the military leaders on the one hand and ethnic group leaders on the other hand. I think this is very tough. So my question is, what is the biggest challenge for you to negotiate as a leader between the national army and ethnic groups?
It's the same, really. It's mutual understanding and confidence. The reason why people fight is because they don't believe in each other. It's because they think that they have to preserve and defend themselves. They don't believe that the others, the other side or other sides, in our case we have many ethnic armed groups involved in the peace process, that they do not believe that the others will defend their rights. So it's a matter of mutual confidence, building up understanding, building up the kind of approach where you think of the good of the country as a whole and not of your own organization, of your own group. Now, this is difficult to achieve because we speak very blithely about unity out of diversity. But unity out of diversity is not something that can be implemented just because you want it to be implemented. If you want it to happen, you have to work towards it. And it's a long process. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of determination and motivation. We believe that this is possible. And because we believe that this is possible, we work at it with honesty. Now, honesty is very important in such negotiations. If you base your negotiations on deceit, then you will never succeed. You may, for a short time, in the short run, you may be able to achieve some kind of understanding, but it will be broken if you have been dishonest about your motives and what you're prepared to offer. But I've said to the different armed groups that when they come to the peace conference, what they should be thinking about is what they have to contribute towards a peace process, not about what they think they can get out of it. Now, of course, it's human nature always to want to try to get something out of a situation. But that is human nature, and I don't think we should think that this is a great crime. But I think if you live in society, or if you live in a country which has to be built into a true union, then you have to give as well. You have to be prepared to give. It is something basic, but something that we have to repeat again and again, that give and take means you give as well as take. It doesn't mean that you take all and everybody else gives, which some people think it is. So that is what we find most difficult, making people understand that we have to work for the common good and building up confidence and trust in each other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to turn to Shuzo Tani, please.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Daw Aung Suu Kyi. I'm Shuzo Tani from the School of Government studying public policy. And from next April, I'll be working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a diplomat. And
I have to look at my diplomat.
well, my question today is not about diplomacy, fortunately, maybe. In 2012, I had the great pleasure of meeting a lot of Myanmar youths in the Ship for Southeast Asian Youth program. This is a program sponsored by the Japanese government and has been fostering Japan and ASEAN friendship for more than 40 years. And in this program, which lasted for more than nearly 2 months, I got to meet a lot of Myanmar students and youths and thought that there were a lot of untapped potential yet in especially the younger generation of Myanmar. And as everyone knows, you have plenty of overseas experience. And as a former researcher and also as a foreign minister, I'd like to ask you what you think is the best way for Myanmar students to promote Myanmar students to study abroad, and also for countries like Japan to better welcome students from overseas. Thank you.
Thank you. The reason why we want to send our students to study abroad is because, as I mentioned earlier, our education system has been very weak for the past half century. And in order to bring up the standard of our education system, we have to depend on outside friends to help us as well. But the real need is to build up the education system within our country. We should go out to the world in order to broaden our vision and to learn more about the world and to learn more about the subjects which are a speciality in certain different places, not just to make up for the weaknesses of our own education system. I have to say that we earlier mentioned the elitism that has been coming into Burma, when the privileged are taught very well because they can send their children to the international school and other expensive private institutions, whereas the poor in the villages are taught very poorly. Now, it worries me that some of our children, the children of privileged families who go to these expensive schools, think that it's a matter of pride not to speak their own language because they're taught in English. And this is something that I find really, truly, truly reprehensible. You should be proud of being able to speak your own language. I want our students and our young people to be proud of their own country, to be proud of their own culture. And then only will they be fit to go abroad and get the best of what the world has to offer them. If they go out to the world thinking that their culture is not something to be proud of, if they go out into the world ashamed of their country and their people, they will not be able to bring back the best that the world has to offer. So that is what I want our students to do. I want them to go out as young people who are proud of their country, who are committed to helping their country to make more progress, and who have gone out to learn what they can learn for the sake of the greater society back home, rather than just for themselves. It's not any particular subject, whether they go out to learn about diplomacy or medicine or suburbanization, which is a very difficult word to get one's tongue around. Whatever it is they go abroad to study, we would like them to study with the intention of bringing it back home for those who have not had the privilege of the opportunity to broaden their horizons.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we would now like to turn to our final question from Zenta Nishio.
Suchi-san, nice to meet you. My name is Zenta Nishio. I am a PhD student here in Asia and African Area Studies. I have been researching about the slum community in Manila, the Philippines. after the World War II, the people migrated from rural province to urban areas. But unfortunately, Philippine government could not afford to provide legal housing to them. This is why in Manila now, tremendous slum community existing there. Then this housing issue come to represent social and economical inequality. Myanmar are now experiencing the large economical growth, 7 to 8% GDP, and Yangon is really radical urban expansion. The Myanmar is transition to democracy, but there is a country like the Philippines, the rich people more rich, and then there is a possibility to produce more poor people. So the Philippines also, they produce a lot of poor people, even though under the democracy. So this is really a difficult question, but I would like to ask how making a balance between the democracy and the liberal economy is a really deep and difficult issue. How do you think for the future of Myanmar and the future of the common people, how should we make it a balance, this economy and the democracy for your countries? Thank you.
Well, thank you particularly because you mentioned the problem of affordable housing, which we're having to face in Rangoon in particular. We have to make sure that those who do not have houses should be given homes, but at the same time, we do not want to promote the problem of squatters. So this is an issue that needs a very, very finely balanced solution. But you're talking about the connection between democracy and development. You cannot have one without the other, not in the long run. Democracy will not be sustainable if the people cannot see that democracy means better development for them. Because in the end, it's quite natural that people should opt for a system that offers them the best kind of life possible. I remember listening to a radio program on the BBC a long time ago. This is while I was still under house arrest, so that must have been about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. I'm not quite sure of the exact date. There was going to be a general election in India. India, as you know, is the largest democracy in the world, and it also has a very high percentage of illiteracy. And in one of those programs, the interviewer had gone down to a village and was asking an ordinary village woman, apparently who was not able to read or write, who had never been to school, and was asking her for which party she was going to vote. And she told the interviewer, I'm going to vote for this particular party. And she was asked, and for which party did you vote in the previous election? And she said, I voted for another party in the previous election and the one before that. But now in this election, I'm going to vote for another one. And the interviewer asked her, why? And she said, well, before the last two elections, that party promised that they would give us running water. They still haven't given us running water. I'm not going to give them a third chance. Now, I like that answer of that woman because maybe she was uneducated in the sense that she had never been to school, but she was very practical. First of all, she didn't like people who did not keep their promises. Neither do I. And so I sympathize with her entirely. And secondly, she didn't think there was any point in voting for a member of parliament who had failed to deliver. And she said, what is the point in my voting for a party which still has not been able to give us running water after about, I think it was 10 years since the first promise was made. So that is very normal, and that is acceptable, that is right. You must make sure that a particular political system that is that you are trying to root into the society will also bring about a better life for the people of the society. We are not working for democracy because it's some kind of ideal theory. It's because we think that is the system that would best enable our country to progress, because it gives the greatest opportunity to the greatest number to be involved in the development process of our country. That is why we want democracy. I think it was Churchill who said that democracy is not such a good system, but the others are even worse. So we have to make do with the best that our human intellect has been able to devise so far, and we believe that it will work. But it will work only if we make sure that it gives our people a chance to live better lives. And I hope that Japan will be helping in this as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Unfortunately,
am I allowed to cast a question? I think it's only fair.
Of course you can. Of course you can cast a question. Please.
Because otherwise it's not a dialogue. So what I would like to ask is this. What is it that interests you about a country like Burma? Is it our politics? Is it our history? Is it about our culture? What is it that interests you about my country? Now, whoever among you would like to answer.
Any of you can answer this question. What interests you? Okay, Nishio.
The people. The common people there.
Well, can you expand on that a little?
Because I never went to the Myanmar, especially Yangon. I'm urban study. I want to know how, because the media do not show so many, people that detail their livelihood style or their daily experience. It's really difficult to touch through the media. So for me, the Myanmar is really attractive. If I can go there, and then so that is a more daily transition, because Myanmar is from the military to the democracy. The transition is really deep. So that is really attractive for their daily transition.
You mean for research purposes?
Maybe the different person should.
Okay, would one other person like to reply?
My interest in Myanmar is, of course, culture, because my research topic is food and culture. So I went to Myanmar and I tasted the food, and also in Japan, my family is a tea farmer. So also the Myanmar people also drink tea a lot, and also they make pickles, like a tea pickle, the lapeto, and I tasted it. The villagers welcomely cooked those with peanuts, and I really loved it. So yeah, my interest is always lie onto the food and people, that how they serve it, and since I could really see how they serve and how they welcome us, so I'm now more interested in to experience more. If I can go back to Myanmar, that would be great. Thank you.
You don't look as if you eat too much, but I'm glad you're interested in food.
I was modest, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Unfortunately, we are a little bit pushed for time, so I would like to bring this session to a close. So first of all, I would like to ask everybody here to offer a very loud applause, please.
I'm afraid I don't always do what I'm supposed to do. I have to say that I object to people being told to applause. I think they should only applause if they wish to, spontaneously.
Would you like to spontaneously applause, please? Now, would it be possible just to ask you to remain here for a moment? What we would like to do now is take a commemorative photo with you and the students, if you don't mind. And also, we would like to offer you a bouquet of flowers. And I'm going to ask Ms. Soyako Harima to offer this to you as a representative from all of the students. This bouquet of flowers is a token of our deep appreciation to you. And it's presented to you on behalf of the Kyoto University Yangon no Seikai. This is a Kyoto University Alumni Association in your country, and it also comes with a message for you. So could I ask Ms. Soyako Harima to pass over the bouquet, please? Okay, and now, would it be possible to ask our president to also come back up to the stage, please, as well? And we would like to take one more photo with our president as well, please. Could I also ask maybe the students also to stand? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you today for making this a special event.